What's up, my archfiends of chaos? This is your Kid Rose Chaos Gamer. We're going to get into some discussion and theories and lore about Vincent Valentine's transformations in the Final Fantasy VII, what they mean, represent. The reason why you're not seeing me on camera right now is since right now we got to get our AC fixed again, so there's no air, so I'm shirtless, and I don't want to actually, I don't want to blind some people. I've still got a lot of work to do before getting that six-pack, so you ain't gonna see my shirtless ass on on a video cam. So you're gonna have to do it with the voice. Since I'm also going to be filming the Final Fantasy, the Vincent trailer very soon, at least the teaser of it. This is actually something appropriate. I wanted to get myself in the mood for this, so I picked all the best Nibelheim clips from Crisis Core Reunion, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII, to talk about, Vincent Valentine's many forms and what they represent. So, if you already know that Vincent comes from a casket in Final Fantasy VII, even Crisis Core has referenced this. Yes, Vincent Valentine is a vampire, but not in the traditional sense, as he's a scientifically genetic-made immortal vampire, so he can be the only one to actually control chaos for Hojo's research purposes. If you play Resident Evil, then you know how the zombies are not supernaturally made. They're made by genetic experiments and splicing DNA, and this is what Hojo did to Vincent. He spliced 3 different monsters inside of Vincent in order so Vincent could live, because as we've seen with Vincent Valentine's dad, which I don't have no Dirge of Cerberus clips, so bear with me on that, but Vincent Valentine's dad, Professor Grimoire, died because he was just a normal man that had just even a little sliver of chaos on him. And chaos is so unstable that, it could eat your life form away, because chaos is all the planet's negative energy. It's a weapon created by all the negative energy of the planet, because chaos's purpose, if you know in Dirge of Cerberus, was to, if the world got too evil, then chaos would wipe everybody off the planet, and Omega will take all the remaining life stream and move on to the next planet and restart society. So you already know chaos was dispositioned to be evil. So in order to control chaos, or actively have chaos cells in you, you would have to pretty much have some strong negative entity DNA spliced in you in order to make it work. So to start off, we'll start off with the very first reference right here. This is besides Vincent's clothing from the Victorian area, Vincent's clothing is a representation of Van Helsing. If anyone's read or watched movies or watched Hugh Jackman's remake of Van Helsing, or Van Helsing Hunts Dracula, which is very funny because if Vincent's a vampire and he's a representative of Dracula, then why is he wearing a cape of Van Helsing? Because Final Fantasy takes all of culture and combines it into one. And the very first lore of Vincent's Gallian Beast form, the Behemoth form, he's not no regular behemoth. This is where we get the reference to werewolves. Instead of werewolves, Vincent in this form is a were-behemoth. Instead of the full moon turning into this form, if Vincent's in an agitated state or emotional unstable state, this is the first form he'll take into the were-behemoth form known as Gallian Beasts. And again, another reference to Van Helsing, which makes sense because in the Final Fantasy VII, Ultimanium, and even the other guidebooks, Vincent Valentine was originally supposed to be a horror researcher, and he got possessed by chaos, trying to actually drive chaos out of the Shinra Manor. That's why you see Vincent with the with the scythe and the concept art. He was supposed to be a horror researcher. He wasn't a Turk or anything until the final changes of game. He was supposed to just drive out any supernatural entity, since Vincent focuses on fighting supernatural. They took that out, but still kept some of the same supernatural elements with the transformations and stuff like that. And then the proto-materia to keep the transformations, from taking over him completely if he ever lost control. So they still kept some stuff, but they removed the horror researcher type of plot line because it would be a different plot line, and then you'll have to tie that up, and they wanted to make the game coincide in one. So they changed Vince's backstory again from a Turk who got killed by Hojo, used for genetic splicing experiments in order to build a body strong enough to contain chaos, to prove to Lucretia that this was a failure to begin with. Until later on, Hojo saw, when you fight Hojo, he saw that, oh, this is actually a success. I was wrong about Lucretia's thesis, but nonetheless, that's when the supernatural stuff stops right there and gets into Final Fantasy VII. Now he's a Turk that was around Sephiroth's biological mother. He even fell in love with Sephiroth's biological mother, Lucretia Crescent, and was around when Lucretia gave birth to Sephiroth, starting the chain of events in Final Fantasy VII of how he felt guilty he couldn't stop Hojo, because also I think the other power that is not stated is Vincent could see some of the future, so he probably saw some of what Sephiroth would become later on. And that's why I put some of the Crisis Core clips, and that's where some of the guilt is. It's not only seeing what Sephiroth became. That's why later in the game Vincent says that Hojo's going to pay for his illusionary crimes, because his illusionary crimes had made Sephiroth another genetic experiment, just like himself. The only thing is Vincent handled things a lot better than Sephiroth did. Besides locking himself in a casket, he handled things a lot better than Sephiroth did. Because, it'd be the most messed up thing. Telling someone that they are genetically engineered to serve an evil corporation who does not really shake their heads or turn around when it comes to human experimentations. And Vincent's hatred towards Shinra is completely justified. Not only they screwed him over, not only they hurt his fiance, not only did this company killed his dad, but besides that, that's exactly why Vincent feels horrible about himself, because he knows he has monsters inside of him. And even though he's a good person himself, the problem is it'd be kind of hard to look at yourself knowing that you're created to be a destroyer, since Chaos is a destroyer. But besides all that stuff, we're going to get back into the forms again. I think these forms came from the first deep ground base that was under Shinra. That was under the Shinra lab in the slums. It's also not an accident that Remake has references this stuff as well, considering you see cages in the underground lab, which is the very first deep ground base under Sector 7. They did this on purpose, to show you what's going to come without showing you what's going to come. And the canonicity of Vincent. Now, Vincent's Death Gygus form, moving on, is based off Frankenstein. As you see the bolts inside of his head, and the tall hair, and a bunch of bolts. And if you know, it's an old horror trope. And again, like I said, Square Enix, when it comes to designing characters, monsters, transformations and stuff, they base it off any kind of thing in reality. And not just only Norse and Greek myths, but every other story. As Frankenstein is another Victorian horror thing that was created by Dr. Frankenstein, except Dr. Frankenstein would be Professor Hojo. Doing the same thing as Dr. Frankenstein, trying to play God and create life. And as you know, even Odin has a reference. Odin would actually be Vince's dad. Of course, that's a theory. But you do see the left red eye and Odin. Now, Odin only has one eye, but the summon Odin has it's a crimson eye. So to look after Vincent, after Professor Grimmer has died, he became the summon Odin. So I guess that is part of the, the lore of the transformation stuff too. Of course, Vincent being alive, having these monsters inside of him and stuff like that, Vincent would be forced to live forever. Now let's get the last two transformations and what they mean. We're gonna get to Vincent's Hellmasker form, the chainsaw wielding psychopath. This is not a monster at all. This is actually a serial killer that Hojo captured, a really powerful one, and that was used to splice into Vincent's DNA. Hellmasker was once a really powerful, and this is there's no actual lore, but this is what we can see from it. As you see, his mask is based off Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th movies. But he's also carrying a chainsaw like Leatherface of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is where Vincent gets most of his durability from, because this is a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, durable serial killer that Hojo captured and killed to put his cells inside Vincent to make Vincent stronger. This is actually the form that makes it so Vincent can have chaos within him without chaos eating his body, because of the negative energy that Hellmasker would have, considering Hellmasker would be again, there's no real lore or anything with this, but judging by the way that Hellmasker looks, Hellmasker was probably once a really powerful serial killer in the early days of Midgar that Hojo captured. And again, this one's based off classic horrors, Jason, Leatherface, and Michael Myers. And now he gets the final form, Chaos himself, the big cheese himself. We're gonna get to Chaos. If you played Final Fantasy 1, you know the references this. But in the Final Fantasy 7 lore, a multiverse, Chaos was not really just evil to be evil. His purpose was he was a weapon to wipe out all life if all life got too bad. If all life was too evil, just to protect the planet, Chaos would wipe every single thing out of existence, and Omega would take the life stream and go to another planet and recreate society. But if you already know Chaos's infamous history in the Final Fantasy universe, Chaos is the big bad. It's the big evil of the Final Fantasy universe. And no matter which Final Fantasy you play, he's the big bad of all Final Fantasy. He's the one that you gotta worry about. So that's exactly what that is. That's exactly what Hojo's trying to find out, if someone could be milled with Chaos without nothing happening. Vincent was the only one to control Chaos and turn Chaos into a good guy. And if you see in the remake, which is the clips right here, those monsters that come out of the ground, this is where Vincent's claws references, and this is what they did a little bit later on. These monsters have the same kind of hand as Vincent's claw. So again, it's not by accident that the remake puts this stuff in there. It's not that by accident when Cloud looks inside the underground lab, the first deep ground base in the slums, and sees that this is the real Shinra I know. They are purposely setting up part 2. They're purposely setting up how Vincent is completely made. They're setting this up by using Cloud and other characters. When Cloud says, this is the Shinra I know, this is the real Shinra. Shinra is an evil company. So may the crystal be with you. Like, subscribe. If you got any other theories, let them know.